Kate and Meghan's relationship was not very public, but in the few records of their interactions, there are solid body language signals of their emotional states. At first sight, in most videos and photos together, they were having a good time. They mirrored each other, they showed genuine smiles, and even their pacing was in sync. But if I told you that some of their interactions show signals of being uncomfortable and upset with each other, would you be able to spot them? We'll be dissecting their most relevant encounters, including the 2018 Wimbledon, the Royal Foundation Forum, and the last time seen together at Westminster Abbey in 2020. By the end of this video, you'll acquire the skill to detect these signals, understand how Kate and Meghan's relationship evolved before Megxit, and how can you use this to read your own in-laws. Welcome back, my body language buddies. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas and I'm the body language guy. And if you want to join us unlocking the secrets of human behavior, all you have to do is subscribe and hit that bell. Let's get down to it. Wimbledon 2018 was the only time that Kate and Meghan attended an event without their husbands. Yes, they also went on 2019, but Kate's sister Pippa was with them. So the fact that in 2018 they were together with no other guests, it was of a special significance. In the next clip of less than 1 minute, there are more than 20 body language signals. Let's see how sharp is your intuition.
Championships, and what a day it is set to be. That semi-final of the men's singles between Djokovic and Nadal to finish, and then the ladies' singles final. And we have royalty at Wimbledon today. The Duchess of Sussex, Meghan there, just getting out of the car, and Duchess of Cambridge, both in attendance today. We expect the Duchess of Cambridge to be watching the men's singles final tomorrow as well. Just meeting Philip Brook, the chairman of the All England Club here at Wimbledon. Duchess of Cambridge, also a patron of the All England Club, so she does have an official capacity here at the championships and loves her tennis. She absolutely loves watching the tennis here at Wimbledon, has been on several occasions. So Duchess of Sussex and Duchess of Cambridge will be enjoying all of the action on centre court alongside Philip Brook and his wife a little bit later in the royal box.
I'm sure you pick up signals here and there and maybe feel a bit overwhelmed about everything happening at the same time. And even if the man was almost completely blocking Kate and the video resolution made it hard to spot Meghan's facial expressions, it will be easier if we go from one person to the next. And I suggest that we start with the man and the way that he greets Kate first, and then Meghan. Notice that when he bows to Kate, the bow is so deep that he breaks eye contact with her. Also, you can almost spot that his handshake was very sloppy, with his fingers hanging like this way. Now it's important to notice the way Kate offers her hand. She quickly extends her arm seconds before entering the personal space of the man. In that instant, you can spot that she shows more energy, is more proactive than him. And that's something that I always suggest to my clients. Give your hands first, be proactive, so you will be perceived more energetic. Maybe that energy caught him by surprise and that's why he couldn't offer a proper handshake. When the man greets Meghan, he also bows a bit, but in this case he doesn't break eye contact. In other words, the bow with Kate was deeper, and that's a subtle signal that sometimes they are treated differently. Now, just to provide some context, Meghan and Harry had married 2 months ago, so Meghan was already part of a royal family. There's no reason at this point to exist any distinction of greetings between the two. Notice that this time the man has made sure to offer a full handshake. Maybe he realized that he did it really bad with Kate and this time wanted to get it right. The only thing that bothers me is that it lasted 5 full seconds, and that's just a bit much for a casual handshake. Meghan corresponds it firmly, real good handshake on her part, and there's another thing that she did better than Kate, and it was her posture. Both Kate and Meghan lowered their heads a bit upon greeting, but Kate's posture was a bit hunched, and that's a big no-no. It looks plain wrong. Meghan, on the other side, has much better posture, and the vertical lines of her blouse help reaffirm that good posture too. I think it also helps that Meghan is like 3 inches shorter than Kate, and when you're the shorter in the group, you naturally tend to stand with your shoulders back. So Meghan was not afraid to stand like that. That's something that you can apply to yourself. If you're taller than your peers, make sure to not hunch and keep your shoulders back. If you're shorter, use it to your advantage. Both Megan and Kate showed some pacifying gestures, and a very common one is fixing their hair. Since this is a really common body language signals in women, I prefer to not give it that much weight. Even the frequency for just 1 minute is not that different. Megan touched her hair 4 times and Kate 2 times. Again, the gesture itself has so little weight that a real difference will be one woman touching her hair 1 time and the one 10 times to have any significance. And this is important to understand that some body language signals have more weight than others. Now, thanks to the man blocking her, we don't know how many times did Kate fix her dress, like pulling a bit the fabric here and there. That is also a common pacifying gesture. But we do know that even though Megan was wearing a nice combination, she was not that comfortable with her blouse. She fixed it a total of 4 times in that period. And that's a pacifying gesture a bit higher in our hierarchy. One might think she was nervous or anxious, but I think she was just uncomfortable with her outfit. Even so, when you look at a video, you have the opportunity to spot clues and factors such as velocity and intensity. And maybe you'll agree with me that this moment when she fixes her blouse was certainly a rough, strong gesture, like trying to blow some stress away. And that's fine because Kate had years of experience ahead of her, and Megan could have felt quite some pressure given that they were going to be alone in the spotlight. That's why 2 of those pacifying gestures are also defensive signals when you raise your hand to your chest or neck. All these small details are important because you can't just jump to conclusions without being aware of the context, and there is so much to see in just 1 minute of video, and that's why I prefer to take my time. What's more, beyond anything that we could say about Megan and Kate, my main goal is that you'll learn to apply these tips in your daily life. If you're interested in knowing more, you can download my free body language tips right in the description of this video. And these observation skills can help you spot details that most people are going to miss. For example, anyone could say that it was impossible to make out Kate's gestures, but I disagree. In fact, she displayed a really advanced NLP code that you can apply yourself. It happens in a split second. She briefly reaches out with her left hand without touching the woman, maybe talking about the event or the venue. This is a subliminal gesture to watch the other people's reactions when you use a hand to invade their personal space, again, without touching them. This is a first move to see how their body reacts. At that point, if you see that the person raises their shoulders or the shoulder next to your hand, or hide their neck a little on that side, or step a bit away from you, then you know you haven't connected with them yet. In this case, the woman immediately reaches with her own hand to protect her chest and neck, like we saw Megan doing the same a few seconds ago. Almost at the same time, Kate reaches out and touches her, again, for a split second. Now let me explain how this works. In verbal communication, we usually take turns. We have a rhythm. I talk, you talk, and so forth. Interruptions are seen as rude. But in body language, some interruptions can be useful if they are kept subliminal, below the perception threshold of the person. In this case, Kate interrupted the woman's own gesture by reaching out and touching her at the same time. I'm absolutely sure that she was making full eye contact at that moment. Why is this so important? Because touching another person creates immediate rapport, an empathy bridge with them, an immediate emotional connection. Just touching the arm with the tip of your fingers, but most people don't like to be touched, so you do this kind of NLP tactic to touch them without them noticing. Kate reaches out without touching, the woman has a subtle reaction covering her neck, and at that precise moment, Kate reaches out again and touches her. And this happens while the woman's brain is 1. Confirming her own gesture in her chest, 2. Talking to Kate, and 3. Locking eyes with her. And since that touch falls almost outside her field of vision, she just won't register that touch consciously and she won't even remember it. This is a moderately advanced NLP tactic called the Averianov technique, and is part of a broader set of gestures and tactics that you can use for charm, persuasion, and even hypnotize someone on the spot. It's easy to figure out that given the real possibility that William become king one day, that's why Kate had access to this knowledge and training. I'm thinking about creating a secret course on these NLP techniques exclusive from my body language buddies. If you want to become one, just subscribe and hit that bell. But Megan has her own set of body language tools too, and as you could see in the video, she managed to smile, nod, make eye contact, raise her eyebrows, tilt her head to one side, and manage her personal space to project warmth. Now, I know that some people would say that, well, Megan is just natural and authentic. She doesn't need any gimmicks to stand out. And I would say yes and no at the same time. In my own opinion, if you put aside the constant fixing of her blouse and focus on her facial expressions, her posture, and her gestures, well, yes, she looks incredibly natural, and that's great. But as anyone might know from experience, acting natural, and especially in moments when you know that everyone will be looking at you, takes effort and practice. She has experience of being an actress. She has experience of behaving in a certain way when the cameras are rolling. So that comes in handy in these kind of situations. And this is one of the paradoxes of body language. It's like having makeup that looks like you have no makeup, or behaving in a certain way that looks natural, like you're just being yourself. Being able to express your natural self naturally and under pressure takes conscious effort. It doesn't take away the fact that Megan is authentic. She is. It means that she's aware of the situation, she's aware of her feelings, and she acts accordingly. This is a great tip for any of us. We might say, hey, I just want to be myself. Well, exactly. You want people to pay attention to what you say and who you are, not be distracted by any nervousness, stuttering, not touching your mouth or your face. All that will just distract people from the real you. And controlling all that can only be on purpose, conscious decision, and most of the time, practice. It's interesting to see that at this point, both Kate and Megan had analogous body language, even if each one had their own style and even shared some clues. Notice, for example, how their eyebrows raised in sync to some remarks from the woman. I think that even if by their own records they had some disagreements over Megan's wedding that ended in tears, by this point I think they had a good chance to grow together and create a good sisters-in-law bond. I always suggest that you be careful if you grab, for example, Megan's attitude on the Oprah interview and try to paint every other interaction with this light. Human behavior doesn't work that way. People change over time, change their minds, and even if we can't change the past, we can learn from it. And in this case, it's a really good source to learn about human interactions. They were getting along nicely, and it's important to be able to see this kind of positive behavior. There are body language signals that are not gestures or postures and are very difficult to classify. I call them attitudes, like tiny pieces of information that give you a glimpse of someone's personality and sometimes of a relationship between two or more people. Right before the four of them start to enter the venue, Kate gives Megan a very quick look and a full eyebrow raise. And you might be wondering, what does it mean? But before giving the meaning away, let's imagine that they begin walking and Kate doesn't turn back to see if Megan is catching up. It would be a totally different attitude on Kate's side, like she starts to walk and doesn't mind to be aware if Megan is still behind her. I will be a bit cold. But since we saw the opposite, that Kate did turn to make eye contact with Megan and raise her eyebrows in a gesture to call her attention, then it's a warm gesture. This is a common trait. When you know that your partner is on your back and you make sure to check on them with your eyes, it's almost unnoticeable, but it's the way we bonded together when we moved in packs. In fact, Megan did the exact same gesture on Christmas of that same year, 2018, and there was a very odd reaction from William. I'm going to explain that reaction in just a moment. Their body language after that greeting and before sitting to watch the match were a lot alike we had just seen. We can spot similar pacing or the way they walk, the speed of their gestures, the intensity of their facial expressions are analogous. There are some pacifying gestures from Megan, like here protecting her chest and neck, but it falls inside what we could consider her baseline or everyday gestures. It's like that video from her first solo outing. She has the same very good postures, nice and powerful walking stride, looks confident, there are no pacifying gestures. Again, this is something that you polish through experience. That's why I don't think those pacifying gestures at Wimbledon 2018 have that much weight. It's much more important the way she was in sync with Kate at that time. And that being in sync is reinforced later when they are going to their seats. By the way, in my Instagram I made a joke with this pic, where Meghan is looking at Kate pretty much like Ivan Drago was looking at Rocky, and yes, it was just a joke. This happens all the time, a snapshot that is easy to put a caption on, and people could think that a single expression from a single photo is relevant when it's not. Once seated, there is more synchronous body language. They both show full smiles. They show more or less the same pacifying gestures. They make themselves comfortable at the same time, almost like a mirror. For example, here leaning in the exact same angle to talk quietly. You can spot their facial expressions, maybe even try to mimic them, and you'll confirm that their faces were showing relaxed smiles. They were enjoying the moment, and there were less and less pacifying gestures. There's only one other moment that is relevant to Meghan's body language, and it's this one, they greeting Angelique Kerber, who managed to win the Grand Slam defeating Serena Williams, being Serena such a close friend of Meghan. The only body language tell in this case is that Meghan's blinking rate is higher than in any other moment. Her facial expressions are the same as before, her pacing is similar, but that blinking is, of course, being upset that her friend lost. I insist, if their interaction at Wimbledon 2018 told us anything, is that they had a very good shot at forming a closer bond. Of course, it's not just about body language, but at least we have one record that at some point of their relationship, and even being through some friction, this could have worked. It's a lot like the way the Fab Four displayed their emotions being together that same year in February or 2 months before Harry and Meghan's wedding. It was really nice to see all of them talking about the potential of having a real impact on the world. I saw some comments in the original video that claimed that Meghan was a narcissist due to the fact that she was talking about herself. As she said, I did this, I've been doing that, me, etc. While the others, Harry, William and Kate, expressed their opinion talking as we. But then I went to the full video, the original source, to find out, well, what were the questions that she was answering in that moment. And there was 2 of them.
Meghan, you are new to the foundation, but you have lots of experience working with charities, especially grassroots organisations. It would be interesting to find out, first of all, your impressions of the Royal Foundation so far and what you're hoping to do. Meghan, you touched on it before. It's well known, you've championed the empowerment of women and young girls and promoting their self-worth. How do you hope to continue that work with the Royal Foundation?
Being Meghan really new to the foundation, apparently she had been working with them just for 2 months, she was being asked expressly about her experience. It was a personal question, so it made sense that she talked in terms of I, because she was talking about her individual experience. It will be strange if I'm going to talk about my experience or what I'm bringing to the table and start talking about we. So in this case, as in every other scenario, it's important to be sure about what was the question. If you're watching an edited video, you should be sure about what is the people reacting to, what is the exact question they're answering. There is not much direct interaction between Meghan and Kate here. The camera angles also make it really difficult to tell their reactions when any of them is talking. What I did notice, and this is really interesting, is that their body language, the body language of each one, perfectly embodies their personalities. That will be a great topic for another video, and if you'd like me to make a deep analysis of this unique Fab Four reunion on stage, just let me know in the comments. What I could say now, from a public speaking perspective, is that Meghan would have been a great addition to the team. Because of all of them, she's the most fluent speaker. She could have been a great spokeswoman for the Royal Foundation, but of course that takes teamwork, and if you follow my other analysis on Meghan Markle so far, you'll be aware that she has a very hard time sharing the spotlight. But let's go back in time a bit more, specifically to Sandringham 2017, which is the traditional Christmas reunion of the royal family, and for the first time ever, someone that was not a member of the royal family was invited, in this case Meghan. You might remember from my Kate and William breakup analysis that back then Kate was not allowed to attend Sandringham 2006 because she was not married to William, and it was not a direct reason, but in the end it was an influence to their split. Again, the attitude of all of them, Kate, Meghan, William and Harry, was very warm. They were walking and looking at each other, having false smiles, nodding, keeping the pace between them, keeping a very small distance between them. You could see the girls talking, the boys talking. This clip, this attitude cannot be faked. It's like a body language symphony where somehow every one of them knew how to play their part. And watching them and Sandringham 2017, it's extremely important to understand the evolution of Kate and Megan's relationship, especially when you compare it to the same event the very next year. Okay, as I mentioned earlier about this gesture from Megan, the service of Sandringham 2018 had finished, they were going home and she, in that same reflex, turns around to check on the rest of the pack, just like Kate did on her in Wimbledon 2018. And what I found so strange is that William was right behind her, Megan fully turning towards him, and he didn't even flinch. And I find William's non-reaction odd because we're talking about an automatic survival reflex. You know that when you barely sense the eyes of someone upon you or in your general direction, you automatically lock eyes with them because this is the fastest channel to communicate if there's danger or anything that you should be aware of. This is hardwired in our limbic system, so the fact that William didn't lock eyes with Megan at that moment is a strong signal that he was actively ignoring her. Let's remember that according to sources, the Kate and Megan feud started on that month when they supposedly had a strong argument. Maybe you recall the reports about Kate opening up about feeling like Megan had used her to climb the royal ladder, while Megan told Kate that she'd felt snubbed, and all of this unofficial of course. And you know that when these tabloids and magazines talk about a source, he could be a chimpanzee handcuffed to a ThinkPad, so it's better to take that gossip with a grain of salt. Anyway, the William non-reaction can also be explained if he was so lost in his thoughts as he simply was not aware of his surroundings. But he was paying attention to Charles talking right in front of them and looking both ways while adjusting his scarf. He didn't look like lost in his thoughts. I'd be glad to read your opinion in the comments. That's why it was important to compare the same event in 2 consecutive years. The attitude of the group changed dramatically from one year to the next. I understand that sometimes it's hard to believe that you can draw conclusions by such tiny clips among all the events that could have happened along the year, but it's relevant because we're comparing the same scenario and the attitudes of 4 people at the same time. It is totally possible that 1 or 2 of them had a bad day that exact day, but if the attitude of 4 people at the same time changed in the same event, that's statistically a bit harder. 2019 was a bit scarce in public appearances. I guess that the fact that Meghan and Harry welcomed Archie in May of that year was one of the reasons those public appearances were toned down. As I told you before, Kate and Meghan attended Wimbledon again that year, but this time Kate's sister Pippa joined them. This, in itself, doesn't say much. Sadly, there's virtually no video records of this encounter, but in the images we can see that they mirror body angles, mirror postures, show the same facial expressions, and in general look like they were enjoying their time together like 1 year before. Anyway, I always prefer looking at videos because they give so much information about someone's emotions and intentions. We're gonna give them the benefit of the doubt here. But hey, we should be able to see what happened in Sandringham 2019, right? And that's not possible because Meghan and Harry decided to completely skip the family tradition and took a break over the holiday season. The general public already thought that something else was going on because that holiday break had started since October. Then, in January 8, 2020, Meghan and Harry revealed their intentions to step back from working royal roles. This brings us to Harry and Meghan's final royal appearance at Commonwealth Day service in March 2020. This event stirred a lot of speculation because according to what people appreciated on the video of the moment, apparently Kate absolutely ignored Meghan. If you haven't watched the clip before, here you have it in all its glory.
Significant one, very warmly welcomed by them, and now they take their seats with the other members of the family.
So we
It was really quick. William and Kate had their backs turned, and even with those limitations, it's not hard to spot that William's head turns just a bit towards Meghan and Harry and acknowledges them. It's also easy to read Meghan's lips saying hello, and Harry doing pretty much the same. So at least for William, he did establish eye contact with them. But as for Kate, I watched the clip quite a few times and ran it through some software, and it happened exactly the same as in Sandringham 2018 between Meghan and William. Both Meghan and Harry were staring directly at her and were showing absolute delight. Man, I really can't remember the last time I saw Harry smiling like this. And even so, there was no stopping on Kate's flow from saying hello to Edward and Sophie, turning around and sitting down. Again, and this is very important, when you sense those eyes on you, in this case 2 pairs of eyes smiling at you, it takes conscious effort not to look them immediately. According to some biographers, their relationship had become so tense up to this point that every channel of communication had already been broken. And this is proof of that. What I don't understand is that most of the time Kate is really careful with the way she acts in public, and she must have known that this moment was no different than the rest. Especially if this was going to be the last time she was going to see Harry in a royal event. And if you saw my Kate and Harry analysis, you know how close they were before Meghan. As usual, it's a small detail, but up to this point we have been stacking enough signals to reach the conclusion that after 2018, the relationship was already broken beyond repair. And we can just take a look at what is public, especially when they are not that aware of being observed. But there's one piece of the puzzle that is still missing, and it's her statement about Kate in her interview with Oprah.
So specifically, did you make Kate cry?
No.
So where did that come from?
No, the reverse happened.
As in every statement, there are 2 general options. Either the person is telling the truth or they are fabricating the facts. There can be shades to this, but for the sake of simplicity, let's leave it to just 2 possibilities. And let's make it easier still. I already made a statement about Meghan lying when she said that Kate made her cry. And you can watch how I reached that conclusion in my Oprah interview analysis. Well, let's make a nice exercise for a moment and let's assume that Meghan was telling the truth at that moment. We're not going to analyze her facial expressions or words chosen or any of her body language. We're just going to go and assume that she's telling the truth. Even if she's telling the truth, there is plain and simple intention. And in that interview, she made it clear. She made a clear statement that Kate was a good person. If that's so, and the event of Kate supposedly making her cry was so specific, then why emphasize it so much? By the way, even if it were true that she didn't know that Oprah was going to ask that question, she perfectly could have said that as any sisters-in-law, they had their frictions, they had their moments, they had disagreements, but in the end, Kate is a good person, blah blah blah. Meghan knew that this interview was going to be seen by tens of millions and every single statement was going to be closely scrutinized by everyone. Her general intentions were about pointing at the firm. Then again, even if she were telling the truth, what was her intentions behind telling that it was Kate that made her cry? Why make it so relevant? Again, it's a very specific event that, due to the explosive relevance of this interview, was going to blow up out of proportion. And that's why sometimes you don't even need to analyze body language but just intentions. And here I repeat my conclusions of that segment of that interview. For one reason or another, Meghan wanted Harry and William to grow apart. If she was telling the truth or she was lying, I think she was lying, but that's irrelevant. She planted a seed to make sure the brothers distanced themselves because there was absolutely no reason to make such a reversal statement. She could have just said, "No, that's not true, I never made Kate cry, it was something the tabloids made up," and leave it like that. Supposedly it was the firm that made her life miserable, not the royal family. Then why plant that seed? And that's one of the reasons people don't trust Meghan anymore. Human behavior is fascinating. We could spend a whole afternoon here talking about what do we pick from these interactions, and besides trying to judge the behavior of others or the behavior of people that don't even know that we exist, the idea is to learn these skills so we can get along better with the people that know that we exist and the people that we care about. The Kate, Meghan, William and Harry story will just keep going. Whether if you want to pick a billion is up to you, or if you want to play with memes is up to you too, but the fact that we have these lives documented for decades of images, videos and anecdotes is a great opportunity to learn about body language, relationships, narcissistic manipulation and many other topics. If you get to apply at least one of the tips that I mentioned in these videos and it helps you detect the emotions or intentions of others, I'd be glad to know that my work has been worth it. Meanwhile, we'll be meeting here again, learning body language and of course having a lot of fun. One more thing.
No, but I think it's really good that we've got, you know, four different personalities, and you know, we've all got that same passion to want to make a difference, but you know, different opinions, and I think those opinions work really, really well. Working as family does have its challenges, of course it does. Everybody here, the fact that everyone's laughing means that everybody knows exactly what it's like. But look, you know, we're stuck together for the rest of our lives, so.
This is true.
Togetherness at its
Togetherness,
finest.
yeah.
But why stop here? I've got other videos about Meghan, Kate, Harry, William that can help you better understand your own relationships with your in-laws. And if you want to know as soon as my new episodes come out, all you have to do is subscribe and hit that bell. Take care, my body language buddies. See you next time.